I'll just leave depth of field alone for now and come back to that later. So now we have our stereo settings here, and this has a couple of different types. We have anaglyph, which is the common mode if we have our 3D glasses, or we can also do lenticular, which you probably won't have much use for, and also side by side. So that's what that looks like. Can kind of try to cross our eyes and get a depth effect. Or we'll just go back to anaglyph and see that. Okay, so you can see that there's some right and left eye versions of this. They're overlaid against this, and so we could get a 3D effect using a stereo option if we wanted to, but I'll leave that off for right now. Okay, so let's go down to our light, and we can select our light just by clicking on Infinite Light 1, or by clicking on this icon here. Yeah. Let's move our camera around so we can see this better. And then I'll adjust this control so we can see our shadows moving on and so on. Yeah. Anyway, we can also go to our presets, and we've got several of these here, so we can do kind of a cold look to it. So that also bumps us over to our scene. Dawn. And so that's Photoshop's interpretation of what a dawn scene will look like. It's got more of a bluish color. Here's more daylight. And so, go back to light. We could keep going through these, seeing what they look like. But anyway, I'll just quickly go through the settings. Try to switch this back to default and delete this other light. Click on the trash can, actually. Alright. So we have the color, which we can just change the color of this. Make it kind of reddish orange. So that's how that works. And our shadows, which we can just click on and off, or we can adjust the shadows of this. And it's really grainy right now because there isn't the rendering power to really render this in good quality in real time. So what we can do is we can go down to the slow button and render it. So that takes a lot of our problems away. Just hit escape to get out of that. We can also go to 3D menu and come down to render, and that will render the entire thing instead of just the light. Okay, now I'm going to go back to this text object. Forgive me for jumping around a little bit. And we already went over this mesh tab here, but let's go into the deform, or we can also just hit V to go through everything. And what we see here is that we have these controls. So here I can give it some twist, positive or negative, and we can taper it. Control Z, and we can also adjust the extrude. Alright, and to recap, we can also adjust the extrusion from right here. Okay. And if we wanted to, we can also adjust these sliders instead of the controls. So whichever way you want to do that. Hit V. Now we have our cap. So we can adjust the width of the bevel. I'm going to gain closer here for better view. Alright. There's the angle. And we can also adjust the contour of the bevel, or kind of the shape that the bevel makes. Yeah, not that different from shape. So there's some different looks that we can get from that. And down here is the inflate. What these things do is basically control the roundness of the bevel, something like that. Back. Okay, so if we set this to something close to 0, you can see that it's pretty flat, or I can increase this angle, and there it's much more rounded. Okay, and if I increase the strength, so there you go. That does look kind of weird. And so that's a really sharp kind of bevel. Alright, let's, now that we've gone over this object at the head of the stack, let's go more into this. And I can click on like the front inflation, front bevel, front extrusion, and so there's a whole bunch of parts to this. And then like these boundary constraints and internal constraints, I'm not going to bother with for this tutorial. Okay, so we have our front inflation selected. I can click on this diffuse.